Hello everybody, it's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West Texas, and like the title says, we're dealing with those noisy roosters today. I thought you might get a kick out of watching how I dealt with them, and I try to inject a little bit of humor. This is take two because the battery went dead on me, and I was getting mad at myself anyway because I was getting a little bit too serious. But there is some technical stuff, and I'm always of the assumption that the people I'm talking to haven't done this stuff, because if you're younger than me, the odds are that you haven't done it unless you live on a farm somewhere. Then maybe you have done this. But we're going to, if it's boring, shut it off. And if the wind noise gets to you, the wind came up. I've got 6 remaining chickens that I have to cut up, so I can't wait until tomorrow or anything. We have to do this today. So if the wind comes up, don't comment about the wind. I know it's there, but it's the best I can do. So let me zero in on the table here, get my ugly face out of this, and let me show you how we're dealing with those noisy roosters that have always been irritating everybody in my videos. Be right back. All right, lucky you get to look at my torso and not my awful head. So what we did, Debbie and I today culled these roosters, and it turned out we had 7 of them that were, and that's why there was so much noise. That's one of the original roosters. He stays. But we had 7 that were 7 too many, and the one way that I knew it, the thing that really got me mad yesterday, I know you can't see my face, but maybe you can, there we go. What got me mad yesterday was I looked at my hens, and about half of them across their saddles where the rooster mounts on their back, there's no feathers. The feathers had all been ripped off. That means that they are getting too much sex. And as we all know, guys, women don't like too much sex. So I figured that we'd get rid of some of the guys and put some stuff in the freezer and see what we could come up with. So let me get one of these guys out of here. Now, I've said in the previous video that we skin our chickens, which is what we do. We skin our chickens. And the reason that we skin them is Debbie doesn't really care for taking the feathers off, and I'll explain why in a minute. Debbie doesn't really like the skin. I do, but that's one of those things that I don't like them enough to scald and pluck anyway. It's hard work to scald and pluck. So we've got this rooster. Rigor mortis has set in. Now this is one of the things, folks, you buy a chicken from the store, and that chicken has, it's a very young bird, number one. It was killed and aged, and typically you're going to age a bird, when you kill it fresh, you're going to age it 72 hours. And also it had that 20, not this bird, but the one in the store, had that 20% broth added. If you look at it, sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 15%, but they add broth to it. That means that the $1.50 a pound that you paid for the bird, if you didn't buy it on sale, is really $1.80 a pound, because you paid 30 cents a pound for a little bit of salt and water. And that's how they screw you. They also screw you by taking the liver and the gizzard of a 35-pound chicken and stuffing that in there to further rip you off. If you kill your own bird, you're not getting ripped off, because you got the correct internal organs if you eat them. You have no broth, which also can make the bird denser, which is more nutrition dense, but you eat less of the bird. It also will make them tough. Now these are roosters. They're over a year old. These are tough. They are not really, you're not going to roast this, fry this bird. You're not going to fry them. You're going to make a stew, a fricassee, or a soup out of this bird. Now, before you turn me off, because okay, I've heard all about that, and you don't know about those things if you're, again, under my age. You haven't dealt with them. My generation didn't teach our kids. They are teaching the young ones that are coming up now, the kids that are just now coming of age, moving out on their own and getting married. And we'll deal with fricassees and soups a little bit later. Now, I am making chicken and dumplings for dinner tonight. It's something that I like. It's a recipe I like. But I'm going to talk about the other things you can do besides soup, stews, and fricassees. Although I do have my Dutch oven here, and I'll show you what we're doing, and here's where we start. You start with the wing. Now, It's very easy to cut up a chicken, and there's no sense in paying 30 cents a pound extra to have somebody else cut it up for you. And you find out that that chicken, where this little chicken here has a back about that wide, the one that they cut up for you has a back about that wide. How did that happen? Well, it's easy. Bone isn't as valuable as meat, so they give you a hell of a lot of bone. They, in fact, sometimes give you the wrong bones. So you go right in here. Now this is the front end of the bird here, and you go right in from behind there and cut in until you hit the bone. Remember, a knife is for cutting meat, not bone. Cut the bone. We'll pull the feathers off. We're going to wash the feathers when I finished with all the meat. I'm going to wash the meat and make sure I get all the feathers. You just go down here until you hit the actual joint. Now you can see the white right there. That's my joint. So I just take my knife and go right down here. Okay, I'm hitting a little cartilage. I move over just a little bit. That's my wing. Now what I do with the wings, I like hot wings. Same thing on this side. I like hot wings. Debbie doesn't like hot wings. Debbie doesn't like hot stuff. In fact, if she even smells that I've used something hot, she starts complaining that her food tastes hot before she even eats it. So I make the hot wings for myself. So what I would do is I would typically just take it here, run the knife up there till I hit the bone. It's a little hard sometimes. Bend it over backwards. Go right here. Bring that knife through. Now you've got your two segments. I'm not going to do that here because these are so tough on this bird that I end up going gnaw, 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 and you can't. It go bust your teeth. And it's just, they're not, this isn't the right kind of bird for hot wings. Even if you aged it for 5 days in the freezer, or in the refrigerator, or 6 days, it still won't get tender enough. So, it's worthless. You can throw it out. Soups, fricassees, stews. In my case, I'm going to make a fricassee out of just the wings off these birds. A nice way of using the wings that I really can't make my favorite hot wings out of. Now, I'm going to show you 2 ways to deal with the thigh and the leg. Now the first way is for what we're going to do here, which is going to be removing the meat from the bird. Now like I said, rigor mortis set in, so I've made that little cut right along the back, so it's a little easier for me to bend this down. It's still hard, but front of the bird here, come in right along the meat here. Right along here and cut right along until you feel the resistance of the bone. That's a really good cut there. You can see I brought it right through. There's my white. Just go right like so. There. I've taken off that segment. Now, what I'm going to do with the rest of these birds is I'm going to remove the meat from this whole section. But if you were cutting the bird up, because remember I said, why pay 30 cents a pound to have somebody else do it for you when they're going to throw in a giant bone or a giant liver that you don't want? Do it yourself. Make that cut. Come on down here. There's my white bone again, so you know you're going to go right down here. Follow the resistance. My magic word, snick. You snick along the bone as best you can. Now, do the same thing, but right here, right down over the joint is. Like so. There I've got my leg and my thigh. You can see this meat's drying up. It doesn't matter because we're going to grind it, but I need to be moving faster with this. But because you're here, I'm not going to. We're going to do it so you get an idea of what to do. Now, you can take the breast and go right down here with a pair of meat scissors, right down here, and you'll break it off at the wishbone if you like the whole bone-in breast. I like my breasts filleted, and I'll show you why in a second. So you pick this bone, there's your cartilage right there. You're going to go right alongside that cartilage. You can feel the knife snicking, magic word snicking again, along that bone, and you just snick it right along. This is the same technique if you're a fisherman. It's the same technique that you use when you're filleting a fish. Snick along those bones, poke through, come right through here and over, and there you are with your breast. But wait, there's more. This is the chicken tenderloin, peeled right apart there. This is your actual proper chicken tenders, not that crap they sell you in the stores. It's the tenderloin that we peeled off. Keep that separate. There's your breast. You make your breast just as you would make any breast, and keep your tenders for something special, even if that something special is just frying them up as tenders. That's perfectly all right. Now, let's do the other side of the breast. Snickety snick. We still have flies. If you saw my video about the maggot trap, it's only just collecting maggots. They aren't even dropping down yet. But all the intestines and that from these chickens are going in the maggot trap. So that will help quite a bit. And then we'll get rid of these flies. But of course, when you have a horse and you have chickens, you're going to have flies. Separated my tender again from my breast. And I'll package, you know, it's just the two of us, so I'll package maybe 6 tenders in a Ziploc. Now, you're left with a wishbone that's on here, and this wishbone has got a lot of meat to it. So you come in here like so, and then turn the knife. Come right along, nothing but meat. Bend that wishbone down until it breaks. And then just carefully cut through. There's a lot of meat on this, but what you can do is strip that meat off. It'll pull right off, or leave it on and cook it and then eat it. I like to leave it on because I like the taste of it. It's also one less step for me. Now, you've left some meat on the carcass still. When you were snicking off the thigh, sometimes this is a big piece, sometimes it isn't. Now, in this side here, it's a little tiny piece. It probably wasn't worth getting. But you should go for it. A little piece of meat. You get 14 of those because there's one on each side, and it adds up. Now this is the shoulder. I'm trying to think what the bone is. It's the shoulder blade here, and this is the meat, the muscle in that shoulder blade. That's a wonderful little piece of meat. It's all dark, really full flavored. Up in here, you take your thumb and forefinger, give that a pinch, cut away from you, grab it, cut away. Again, you do that times 14, you've come up with ½ a pound of extra meat that got shipped off to McDonald's from Pilgrim's Pride, and they made chicken McNuggets out of it. Or they made some kind of chicken product. It isn't even food, it's a food product, which really irks me. That's why I do these things for you folks, is to show you how to get back to having real food, not a food product. Because you're controlling what goes into this bird. Every bit from the time this bird here was 3 days old, every bit of food that went into this bird, I knew what it was. Everything that's going on this bird as we cook it, I know what's gone into him. So I'm not worried that I'm getting hormones or steroids. You know, there's been some things written about the hormones and steroids in chickens. Now, you can throw this right in the 100-year-old soup pot, or you can take it and cut it or break it. Just depends on how it feels. So a little bit of gore still left in there. Honestly, that adds flavor. Jam that in. We'll make our soup out of that. Left with this. Now this is a leg, just a plain leg segment. I'm going to take and pinch so I can kind of feel where the bone is. I'm going to put my knife in. Again, the blade's facing away from me. Put my knife in and come up, turning the blade as I get close to the end there. There's a big hunk of meat. Thumb and forefinger, you can see I'm pulling the bone. You can see the bone, the knife right next to my finger. But since the blade's facing away, I'm not worried about cutting myself. Giving me a little trouble. There we go. Come on down here. Another piece of meat, and then the same thing here with the last little segment, which you get a 1 in 3 chance when you do this of hitting that little tiny sharp bone in the leg. I got lucky here. Got lucky in the first take too, because I didn't hit that little bone. Right in the soup pot. Now let me show you how to debone a thigh. This is the inside of the thigh. In other words, it's up by the crotch area. You go along both sides of the bone. You make a cut. You make a cut. Doesn't have to be a particularly clean or neat cut. Thumb and forefinger again. Pinch that bone up, stick the knife in, blade away from you. Come down. Come around. Being a little, actually not quite as good as I would normally be because this is a piece of limestone that'll dull my knife. I've only left a tiny piece of meat there. If you're going to be fussy with that meat, as you should be, because that extra bite is an extra bite, you take that off. I know I'm making soup out of it. And then the meat that's left, when I strain this out and remove the bones, I actually feed that to the dogs. Now, this is still really tough. If you cook it up, no matter how you cook it, it's going to be tough. But if you take the extra meat off, like that. See, I took that little piece there off this little high spot here. Take that high spot and take that meat off. You're left with a fairly thin piece of meat. You take your meat hammer, whack, 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 and spread it out and tenderize it. Or if you don't have a meat hammer, you can take a regular hammer, put it between two pieces of wax paper, whack, 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 and spread it out and tenderize it real nicely. There we go. Now we've got the whole piece here. I'm going to start right about where the joint is. See, the joint's right there. I'm going to start right here, thumb and forefinger right next to it. And there I go, snicking right along the bone. I've got that piece off, snicking right along the bone. There we are. One solid piece of meat. It'll go right in my grinder like that. Over here, same again. Now there's that little bone I don't want. So come up here, right along that bone I don't want, turn it up, boink. And just like head and shoulders, lather, rinse, repeat. You're not paying somebody 30 cents a pound to do it for you and do what the boss says, which is make sure you get a hell of a lot of bone in that gigantic liver and gizzard. You're doing this yourself. You know what you've done. You know how you've done it. You know where the meat is and where the meat came from. Now, I'm not going to make you watch me do the rest of them. I'll come back in a few minutes when I do the rest of them. But I did want to tell you something. Can you see me? Hello? No, you can't see me. There you can. When I was cleaning these birds, these are these mad rapist roosters that were just worrying my hens to death and crowing and messing up all our videos. So, and what was her name? Lorraine Bobbitt. Kind of like Lorraine Bobbitt. When I was cleaning these roosters' testicles are inside their bodies. Took the testicles out, threw them on the ground, and the hens had a field day eating those things. So they got their revenge on these mad rapists. They're no longer crowing in the background. Should be a little bit happier around here. I'll be back in a few minutes. Actually, I'll be back in a couple seconds through the magic of editing. Well, hello. I am back, and everything's done. The meat has been washed and cleaned off. Got all those little pieces of feathers and goo that were sticking to them off, and got everything separated out. I'm ready to grind up the meat, but I wanted to show you. Now there were seven roosters, and what I've got here is 14 breasts, or 7 meals of breasts. One meal, believe it or not, one meal for the two of us off of just those 7 wishbones, the meat that was on those 7 wishbones. And then there's 14 sets of tenders. So 14, you figure there's going to be about 4, call it 5 tenders to a meal. So that's going to be 3 more meals. Just by stripping that little piece of tenderloin out, I bought us 3 extra meals. Now, if somebody out there is laughing at me and saying, oh, I don't have time to go through all that trouble and trim that off and break off the meat and do all this stuff. Yeah, but you have time to go to work and pay down your life debt. Pay that 18% credit card, pay that 10% mortgage, or even if it's a 4% mortgage on a $500,000 house that's way overpriced, who the hell cares? You have time to make the money to pay those ridiculous bills, but you don't have time to save money so that you don't have those ridiculous bills? Give that a thought. So, what we're ready to do now, I'm out of Ziplocs, I'm out of little Ziplocs, so I'm going to put these in the refrigerator and let these start to age. And I'll age them for a couple of days, and by then I will have gotten Ziplocs. And we're going to grind all this meat up. We're going to grind it on a medium grind, and that will make a real nice textured ground chicken that's going to have very much the texture of ground beef. It should have the texture of an 80-20 ground beef, and honestly, it's really hard to tell the difference, except this meat is really sweet. That's the beauty of chicken over turkey meat, is the chicken meat's really sweet. Now, I wanted to show you something. Here's a piece off of the leg, and you can see what I'm holding it by is a tendon, a little piece of tendon. These roosters, these yard birds, these tendons start to get big, just like you get on a turkey. You know, in Thanksgiving turkey, you've got those things that look almost like spatulas that are tendons in them. These tendons will get ground up on the medium blade. If I go to a fine blade, I'm going to be left with a mush, chicken mush, and yeah, that'll get ground up, but it won't have the texture. So we're going to use the medium blade, and I'll come back in just a second and show you and grind it up for you. Okay, we're fighting the temperature today. It's 92 degrees, and we've had this meat out for quite a while. Now, we want the meat to age in the refrigerator where it'll start to break down naturally, just like meat is aged in a meat locker naturally. But what we don't want is we don't want that heat to get on the outside of the meat and start rotting it. So we're going to grind it up right now, and actually I'll come back in a second because there's something I have to do to set up. Well, so we're done. But let's see how much meat we got here off of 7 birds. So we'll turn on the magical scale. We have 9 pounds 4 ounces of ground meat. That's wonderful ground meat. So that's going to be 9 packages of ground chicken meat. So that's 9 meals. And then this is the breasts and that. We have 7 pounds on the breasts. So we have 7 pounds, almost 1 ounce. So just use round numbers. We've got 16 pounds of meat here between the two. Plus we're going to have dinner tonight and tomorrow night because that fricassee is going to be, or that fricassee, chicken and dumplings is going to make enough for 2 meals. And I've got all my soup broth. Not a bad deal for yard birds that really weren't worth too much. And I've got this. The yellow globs you see are pieces of chicken fat in there, but that looks like the best 80-20 ground beef you could find. And it'll eat just like it, except it'll be a nice sweet meat. So, we're done. I'm going to package it up, put it all away, but you don't need to see that. We've covered everything. So until next time, it's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West Texas. See you guys later.